You're good to go.
Okay, thank you, Bonnie. Welcome, everybody. This is the Peaslee Building Committee. It's Tuesday, December 2nd, and this is our monthly meeting. I will call the meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. And our first agenda item is to review our meeting minutes from our November 4th meeting. These were shared with you in advance of the meeting, and I would welcome a motion to approve.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Motion has been made to approve the minutes from November 4th.
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? And hearing none, we will vote by roll call, starting with Lauren Bailey,
Yes.
Mike Tejan,
Aye.
Sean Durkin,
Yes.
Robert Tomasetti,
Yes.
Tristan Bezant,
Yes.
and Erica says yes, so the motion carries. Now we have an update on owner's project manager. So Karina, I'm going to start with you for our OPM update.
Yes, so for the OPM update, so as you all know, and you see Flansburgh is on the call. So we ended up having a little snafu when it comes to budgeting. So the town and PMA, we went through our contract and we were working through a reduction to our contract to make sure that we can write the contract for Flansburgh. And I sent that over to Stephanie about 2 hours ago, Stephanie and Jason. And so that's in the process of being signed and executed. And from there on, then we will have them sign Flansburgh, their contract, and we can move forward. That's pretty much the update for OPM. Just we continue to submit to the MSBA the pro pay as well as the monthly reports on an ongoing basis, and that's going to continue throughout the project.
Thank you, Karina. Just as a by way of context, I would remind this group that the last time that we met on November 4th, we were targeting November 18th to have fully negotiated our contract with Flansburgh. And yes, we welcome Flansburgh to our meeting tonight. Thank you for joining us. We can't wait to hear from you. The timing, the negotiation team ended up spending their Thanksgiving prep week instead of grocery shopping. They were diligently sitting around the negotiation table, as Karina referenced. So at this point, they are in a place where they have sufficient funding for the OPM and the designer contract, subject to an allocation of $30,000. And I would welcome someone from the negotiations team if you want to elaborate or add anything if I haven't captured that sufficiently. And I also would look to this group tonight for a vote in response to the fact that we have exceeded the $900,000 that was allocated at our town meeting. And so in order to proceed with these contracts as negotiated and with subject to the additional funding, does anyone else want to hop in before we discuss from the negotiations team?
Erica, I can just add, I'm sorry nobody can see me because my laptop camera doesn't appear to be working. I'm Jason Little, the finance director for the town. When the contract for Flansburgh came back and was presented to us, it was obvious that that in concert with the PMA contract was in excess of the $900,000. So we can't sign it yet. Working, the school administration and working with them oh, I don't know. Can people hear me? Getting an echo.
Yes, we can hear you.
Um, Here, let me try to turn my speaker off. The they worked together on a contract amendment for PMA's contract, so that brought that down below what it was originally. And the superintendent is going to propose allocating $30,000 from the operating budget of the schools to make up the difference for what's needed for the feasibility budget. So that's pending tomorrow. And if everybody's in favor of the contract amendment, the architect's contract, and that goes through tomorrow, we'll be able to sign the contract and move forward with the architect.
Thank you, Jason. Any other comments from members of the negotiating team before I open it up for questions?
Eric, I would just like to thank PMA for their willingness to sit down and renegotiate. It's very much appreciated. It shows their commitment to make it work. And I know it was a tight budget originally, so just much gratitude for their willingness to adjust and make this work for us. So thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So questions from the group tonight on this particular topic? I see a hand raised from Mike.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one question. I think I probably know the answer to it, but just to ask it. We're not projecting at any point in the feasibility phase to need to find additional monies to cover anything additional, right? Can the OPM confirm that, or that's not the expectation, that's not projected to occur?
So, with what we have for now for funds for the feasibility and schematic, it should get us through schematic unless something completely out of the ordinary comes up, but we foresee that this is gonna be the budget and there's not gonna be an additional amendment coming for feasibility or schematic. Ken, please feel free to.
Yeah, I'll confirm.
You know,
Yep, absolutely. I'll confirm. We vetted out all the sub-consultants, so there's not going to be any additional cost during the feasibility study.
Thank you.
100%.
Yeah, there wouldn't be for us either, Mike.
Thank you.
So procedurally, the negotiations team is authorized to sign on behalf of the committee and the town to sign these contracts as long as we're within the amount appropriated by the town. But because we have this overage, which is proposed to be covered out of the operating budget for the school, which is a vote being taken tomorrow, this group is being asked to approve both contracts subject to the positive vote tomorrow at school committee. And so at this point, I would entertain a motion for discussion about moving forward with the amended contract for the OPM.
And Erica, excuse me. So we would have a motion and then we can ask further questions.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I move that we approve the amended contract. I would like, as part of the questions, just for those figures to be presented, just so it's all captured
Okay,
in the
let me
meeting
just,
here.
we could jump into discussion after a second. So it's been moved to approve the amended OPM contract subject to funding from the school committee, right? I'm asking the motion maker. Your motion is subject
Yes.
to, yes, okay. And is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to recommend approval of the revised OPM contract subject to funding from the school committee. Now I'd open for a further discussion, questions.
Could someone kind of lay out just in basic numbers, what the um, architect's contract is proposed
Sure.
and the original and proposed amendment to PMA's contract?
Yes. I'll take a first crack, but I hope that the negotiation team will be listening closely to make sure Erica gets this correct. I'm going to start with the $900,000 allocation at town meeting, which was based on educated estimates and allocations across 4 categories. The estimated OPM, $190,000. The estimated designer, $590,000. The estimated environmental and testing, $75,000. And the estimated other, $45,000. And the sum of those numbers is the $900,000 appropriation at town meeting. At this point, the PMA amended contract is $190,000. The environmental and testing is at $5,150. The other category is at $35,000. The designer is at $590,000. And with an additional appropriation coming out of school committee operating of $30,000, the total is $930,000, which is $30,000 above and beyond the town appropriation of $900,000. Did I get that correct, negotiating team?
Yes.
Any other questions?
Thank you. The OPM's amended contract would be 190. What is it presently, prior to amendment?
Karina?
So the original contract for the OPM was the 190. Now, once it's been amended, from environmental and testing, 5,150 would be used towards the PMA contract. From other 35,000 would be used towards PMA. From the appropriation from the town, it would be 30,000, and so the revised contract to PMA would be 260,150.
And Tristan, that's a reduction of $95,017.
Okay, that's what I was looking for, was where we started, what we changed it, by how much we changed it, and where we landed. Just a further follow-up, and I appreciate PMA's willingness to work with the town and with the committee. Does that put you in a tight spot? And what is there a plan down the road in order to, like, at the next phase of pricing, once we get to construction, to recoup any of that or to make sure that you're made whole?
So it does put us in a tight spot, but we met, Brian as well as our boss, we talked through what the best way is to make this work with the town. We did reduce some hours for some staff, that are part of the project, but we are going to make sure that the deliverables are met for the town. We're not just gonna not be hand in hand with the town and not provide the services that we were contracted to make. So in that aspect, for this phase, there's no concern to make sure that based on this reduction of fees, that our portion of the contract would not be met. Now, when it comes to the future, and Bri, please feel free to jump in, but it would just be a negotiation based on the next phase of the project, with no intent to go after this difference in cost.
Thank you.
Bri, sorry, I just didn't I want to make
Yeah,
sure
I
that.
think you got it, yes.
Okay.
Of course, we'll have to look at our staffing at that point and see, where we're at and what staff hours will be needed for the next phase, but we will look at that and as always, in good faith, negotiate that as well at the next phase.
We just want to make sure that you guys know that just because we're reducing hours doesn't mean that we're not going to make sure that the town gets the level of effort that this project requires, because we will make sure that that happens.
Thank you. Any other discussion or questions? It's been moved and seconded to recommend accepting the revised PMA contract subject to the funding coming through tomorrow from the school budget. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a vote by roll call, starting with Lauren Bailey,
Yes.
Mike Tejan,
Aye.
Sean Durkin, Sean, I muted you, so I'm going to unmute you so we can hear your voice.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
I'll do a yes.
Thank you, Sean.
Thanks.
Robert Tomasetti,
Yes.
Tristan Bezant,
Yes.
and Erica says yes. The motion carries. Thank you to those of you who spent your grocery shopping time around the negotiating table. We appreciate you and your efforts. Karina, is there anything further on OPM update?
No, I think we've covered everything.
Thank you. Agenda item 4 is a pretty special one for our group tonight because it gives us a chance to welcome our new partners at Flansburgh Architects. So thank you for joining our meeting tonight. The intent is to get to know, for those of us who were not on the designer selection, to get to know our architect partners a little better, and also to take a look at the timeline and what are the next phases. At this point, we can also look to receive some sort of guidance on what subgroups exactly will need to be assembled. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Kent and your team.
Yep.
And welcome you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I can't say how important this project is to us, and I know how important it is to you. We're going to walk you through kind of a brief presentation, what we had at the interview, but we supplemented that with a schedule on how we're going to do this. But I just want to introduce myself. I'm Kent Kovacs. I'm a principal with Flansburgh Architects. I started in 1999, probably 8 years before the MSBA was even an MSBA. So I'm well versed with public schools and procurement, but also I'm going to hand it over to Vince, who's the project manager.
Yeah, how you doing, everybody? Vince. I've been with Flansburgh a little bit longer than Kent.
Yes,
but,
you have.
I'm happy to be on this project and to move this forward. So.
My name's Jennifer. I'm a project architect at Flansburgh. I have sadly not been at Flansburgh as long as Vince or Kent, but still very, very excited to be part of this project.
So what we're going to do is we're going to just show you a brief presentation on what we had at the interview, but we also, again, supplemented it with how we're going to make this all about Northborough. So Jennifer, if you want to start sharing. All right, perfect. Thank you. Again, extremely excited to be here with you to present. We're going to keep this kind of abbreviated, so we might go fast, but we can come back to any slides or any questions you have after the presentation. Next slide, Jennifer. So the MSBA had established in 2008 a great process that we follow, and we have many MSBA projects. And what's important here is these 3 fundamental stages that you see here: the PDP, which is the preliminary design program phase, the PSR, and the schematic design. So the PDP phase is what we're in right now. And that's all about collecting information. So we want to understand your existing school. We want to understand if it's conducive for renovation or new construction. The school has served you well, but we're going to give you fact-based information. You can go to the community and tell them, is it a candidate to move forward? Can we remedy some of the ailments you have in that school? Or is new construction option going to be the best for you? At the same time, while we're doing existing conditions, we're doing educational visioning workshops. So we're understanding educationally how Northborough wants to move forward. And the two kind of merge together because we want to make sure that existing facility can accommodate what you want to do in the future. We begin looking at some kind of test fit options in this phase, and then we move directly into the preferred schematic report phase. Here, the goal is leave no stone left unturned. We want to come to you, the school building committee, as well as the community, and show them as many options as we can. Because some options may have legs, some options may not, but we want to vet this out. And we have to look at taking your existing school and can we fit the program into it? Then what it means to take an ad reno and see if that works, as well as new construction. We look at many options, probably up to 15 different options here that we want to share with the community. And then we put magnitude cost estimates on that. We reach out to the community, we build consensus. Leaving this option, which is really important for this committee, is only one option is presented at the end of the PSR phase. That singular option is what you're confident moving forward. Not just this group, but the community. And that goes to the MSBA for a board approval. After their approval, we go into schematic design with one singular option and develop that into really high detail. That again goes to the MSBA board for approval. And then they finalize your overall grant for the project. What's really important about schematic design, that's the final cost to the community for the entire project. So at the end of schematic design, we're not adding money at the end. It's all captured here. So we understand the building, we understand the site, we understand the logistics going into schematic design. That gets approved by the MSBA. They award you your magnitude for reimbursement or for your grant. And then therefore you have that information that is really a vote of confidence from the state going to the stakeholders within your community. And then you go on to local funding approval. Next slide. And then how does this get done? The PDP, it's all about collecting information. We understand your existing building. We look at your site. Hazardous materials within your building, mechanical systems that are antiquated within your existing building. And at the same time, we're dovetailing that into that educational vision of how you want to move forward. And we start testing design options within that site. We assemble the deliveries with all this information, and that gets submitted to the MSBA. And then we move right into the preferred schematic report. Preferred schematic report, next slide. This is where all those design options come out, which is really exciting. You have your educational vision, and we start doing test fits on the site, seeing if your existing building is conducive for that vision. We're also looking at your cost to make sure that we're not doing anything indulgent, that we're giving you just what you need. And looking at various options, that's going to get vetted through June and July. And the most important part is this committee, when it comes to the August timeframe, needs to vote on that one preferred option. But that lift has the support of the community because we want to bring them along the journey the whole time. So we're proposing multiple community forums as well as kind of focus group forums along the way. And we'll go into that later on. So you get consensus. But when it comes to August next year, there's one option that moves forward that gets presented to the MSBA as your preferred option. And we've been through this many times in the past, and it has to be fact-based. And that gets the support with the community. You package that, it goes to the MSBA, they approve it, and you have one option moving forward. And then we go into the next slide, schematic design. And here we develop that singular option on a singular site. We talk about mechanical systems, we talk about energy, we meet with sustainability groups, and again, the whole time meeting with the community and any focus groups you have involved that need to be part of this process. They've looked at many options, and now we're at one singular option. That gets submitted at the end, 1 year from now, to the MSBA. They review it, and then that support for the singular option gets voted on, and that pretty much summarizes the steps that the MSBA has established. And with all the community outreach that I'm going to go through later on the presentation, leads to a successful vote. And this kind of formula has worked many times in many projects, but the goal is get in front of the community. Don't hold anything back, because we need their support at all these phases. Next slide. A little bit about Flansburgh. Like I said, I've been at Flansburgh since 1999, working on public schools, well before the MSBA was established. But since the MSBA was established, I worked on 12 MSBA projects. We also work on independent schools and international schools. So we bring a breadth of knowledge to your academic leadership team. We share fresh ideas, and that's an asset to why Flansburgh is important to your project. Research observation. This isn't a Flansburgh project. This is a community project. We want a school that reflects your values. So research observations, we want a school that reflects what's important to you. We look at natural areas around your community, what's important, heritage, culture. All these cues become the influence of what that design should be. And this is kind of high level, but when you meet with the community, this is what ticks with the community. This is what works. This is what they feel that they've been listened to the whole time. And so we want a school that's just not a singular building project, but something that reflects and that's bigger, that reflects the Northborough community. We'll also be working with our educational consultant, who will focus at a really deep level with the academic leadership team, which is the superintendent, assistant superintendent, the principals, the teachers, and we also like to involve anybody, even the community, into these visioning to see how this school can reflect what you want to do moving forward. Next slide. And what's really exciting is here you have two great configurations to explore. We have the 310 student option that maintains the neighborhood school option, but then also something a little different, looking at grade spans by incorporating, the 3 through 5 within this school, and what does that do to the other schools? So this is part of the study. And Flansburgh's very familiar with working with consolidation options. Here you see 3 projects: Holbrook, Bourne, Tewksbury. They all went from neighborhood schools to grade span schools. And you just get a variety of how many different configurations were studied, how many sites and how many options were produced from those options. And then in Ashland, that you see on the right-hand side, they had grade span schools, a district 3 to 5, and they stuck with that. There was a larger option that was on the table, but they decided to stick with the 3 through 5. And that's what's really important, is the study, when you meet with the community and you talk about the advantages of redistricting versus staying with what you have, that's going to come through when we start having those open dialogues with the different stakeholders. Next slide. And what we really like, and this is like the fun part. Here's a group of kids that we had at a kickoff for a project that they're working with models, and a letter from a student that says, we want the building to be constant like the other schools in our community, but be magical on the inside. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer to walk us through some initial thoughts that we had for your project.
So starting with site analysis, got a large, heavily wooded property. We've shown the existing school there in orange. Obviously, wetlands on the right-hand side with their own setbacks to contend with, as well as some very steep slopes throughout, which will be important when considering accessibility and reducing the need for retaining walls. Existing services, also a factor when looking for efficiencies. And then as well as outdoor spaces. There's a lot of existing fields and courts, and we want to make sure that the end result serves students both inside and outside. Looking at the different opportunities on the site, there's a 3-acre parcel at the back, a 1-acre parcel closest to Maple Street, and then a 2-acre parcel on the right. All of our options did look at the 3-acre parcel or an addition to the existing. So getting into the different options. Our first renovation option utilizes a lot of the existing school, but provides a fresh face to Maple Street. So we maintained a similar type of circulation around a now larger courtyard, but then added the new portion on the front with the gymnasium on the left, administration in the center, and cafeteria on the right. Academics would be above, and this is a sample of what that might look like as seen from Maple Street. In the next renovation option, we sort of inverted that concept, and we kept the more modest existing face of Peaslee School facing Maple Street. The main addition is to the back and would contain a gymnasium, academic spaces, and cafeteria. The new would be joined to the old with a new media lab and entry. Oops. And this would be a view of that new entry with the existing school on the left and the addition on the right. Looking at new build options, this one we found intriguing as it faces the wooded slope as opposed to Maple Street. So when you drive up and approach the school, there is a real sense of arrival, and you land in this sort of sheltered and protective feeling courtyard between the school and the slope. This scheme also features academic houses, the 2 wings on either side of that central admin and entry zone. And then we would have further academics and the cafeteria and gymnasium at the back overlooking the wetlands. This is an artist rendition of what that might look like with the 2 academic houses facing the front. And then our last new build option, which we're very excited about, is really set like a stage with the fields in the foreground, the new building in the center, and then the wooded slope as the backdrop. Features a central entry zone with academic spaces following the slope around the back, new gymnasium and cafeteria on the right, and admissions and media in the center. We love this because there's a great flow between the building itself and the fields, and it has a great street presence to boot. Here you can see the new entry and a sheltered waiting area underneath the gym for students. So how do we do this? I am going to pass it on to Vince to discuss existing conditions and sustainability.
Sorry, we have a very challenging site at your school right now. We know Jennifer just looked at several of those little conditions with wetlands. So we've had several schools recently where we've entertained those same type of restrictions West Bridgewater, 2 existing schools in operation, and then surrounding wetlands. In Holbrook, same thing, an existing school in operations with wetlands. And then Tewksbury, again, existing school with the district offices as well as, wetlands and then a vernal pool. So as we look at your site and start to, evaluate it, we're going to start looking at these options and how best to, manage the restrictions on there. Next slide. Okay, and then as these options are that we have to look at addition renovations and we have to look at new builds. We don't know which one it is yet, but in the conditions where we're looking at the existing conditions for the existing building, we want to find ways that we can make it more efficient. And so we will do a variety of different analyses on the wall conditions and how to make them more efficient. And so in this particular school where we had sort of a campus set of schools, we salvaged like 65% of the existing buildings, and then we developed different strategies on the exterior wall in order to help it become more efficient, energy efficient to meet the new energy codes. And we would do the same thing on this building as we look at it and evaluate it. So Kent mentioned, we start to gather the information in this phase. And so one of the first things that we're going to do is we're going to start going out on the site and start evaluating the existing soil conditions, what the makeups are, flag the wetlands so we know the extents of where they are, and to continue to do a survey to really get a good sense for what's on site. We'll also do that the same thing with the building. We're going to study the envelope, interior conditions, and mechanical systems, electrical systems. Again, we know the building is built in the early 60s, and it has a lot of these original existing conditions from that time frame. So we're going to analyze that and prioritize those into how they affect health and safety for the code, ADA, and energy efficiency. All of those things are important. So we have to really know whether the building can satisfy any of those things and what needs to be done in order to improve on it. So eventually we get to the last part where we start charting those things to the extent that we know anything that's green, structures that can be salvaged, but anything that's kind of orangey or red, those type of things reach their useful life and most likely are going to get replaced. So with those kind of analysis, we can determine, is the building itself worthwhile to salvage or not. And then finally, we're going to work with our consultants, MEP consultants, to do a variety of energy analysis and energy simulations using different mechanical systems as we look through and determine, what has the best life cycle costs, cheapest operating costs, and then what ones are available for utility incentives. Because as we've done these schools and as the energy efficiency has started to become even more important, a lot of the utility companies will help with some incentives to provide some funding to help mitigate some of the costs. So those are the kind of things that we're looking to do right now in this particular phase to start getting this process rolling.
Thanks, Vince. Next slide, Jennifer. And so building consensus is fundamentally what this project's about. And it starts in the very beginning when we go into the PDP phase about understanding how we right size this for the cost. And so this is just an example from past projects where in the early on, we just started talking about space. We met with different teacher groups, different departments. And here's an example of 5 different departments that requested the same space. It equated to $3.2 million. So after some tough conversation and compromise, they realized through scheduling, they could bring that down to 1 space. So we already started reducing the cost of the project just from the programming, even without a building existing. The next slide in the middle, or the next section in the middle, is about reducing glazing. We want natural light going to each educational space. So I would say 10 years ago, we were targeting 30% glazing that met code, but we're bringing that way down to about 22%. We're reducing glazing. Glazing is very expensive. And so in this project, it was fundamental that they have a really strong exterior envelope. And just by looking at glazing, we were able to save $200,000. Again, just a quick study before we really get into the design of the building. And then reduction of footprint. Now you have a tight site. We know that there's some restrictions, and as Vince walked you through, we're going to start evaluating that. And this project that you see on the right-hand side, they put the gymnasium on the second level. That reduced the building footprint. And just by doing that, they got more flexibility with the site design, but also reduced the superstructure in the building by almost $400,000. So these are some of the strategies we're going to go through in the early design phase just to capture the cost. Next slide. And I think something about Flansburgh is we always keep in mind, beautiful buildings do not need to cost more. Here's an example of a school where 75% we use an economical material, and in the front of the school, we used a premium material. This is a lot of conversation with the school building committee, as well as the community. And this is a way that we are able to balance cost. This is a building for you. It's not a building for us. We're not going to be presumptuous of what it should look like, but we do know we need to be cost conscious. And we have a track record of staying at or below the MSBA average for costs of new construction and addition renovations. Next slide. And then part of that equation goes into the construction delivery method. And so here are a variety of public schools that we've worked on recently, and we're about 50% between chapter 149, which is design, bid, build. That means the architects and engineers design it, and then we send it out to bid, and then the contractor is brought on board. And then as well as 149A, which is construction management risk, where the contractor is brought on board as a team member early on. And so you can see some of the criteria that, you know, lent to like what that decision was that was important. So some of it has to do with wetlands, close proximity to other adjacent buildings, et cetera. And so we're well versed in both delivery methods. And this will be probably a further conversation during schematic design. And then when it comes to community outreach, it does take a village. And here's an example. We had an elementary school in Bourne recently, and that's divided by the Cape Cod Canal. And it really was a little bit of a north and the south divide. Which side was going to have the new school. And so we started the community outreach on both sides, and we were probably getting 20 people. We weren't getting the amount of volume that we wanted. And so what we did was we packaged a roadshow, and we went to the 8 villages that comprised of Bourne. We went to their neighborhoods and we presented the facts, and they came out overwhelmingly supporting the project. But this is part of the thing. We had to kind of reshift as we were in those discussions and brought the message to each of the different communities. Some of the tools we use, we love working with students. You know, here's a group of Christina Schaller, who's an architect with Flansburgh. She's teaching some students at a high school and engaging them. And then this is part of the things that we typically at an elementary level would involve parents and students because of their younger age. But we value this very much, as well as meeting with the faculty. We want to keep the faculty in tune with what's happening and hear from them of how they want to teach, what they think is important. So meeting with the faculty throughout the whole design process is really important. And then most important is reaching out to community. So we take all the information, we give updates every step of the way. And one thing we find fundamental to the process, we can have community forums, you know, at a local elementary or elsewhere, but filming each of those forums is very important, that they can push play at home and get updated. And then in this instance, with the superintendent in Nauset, we would film monthly updates with the architect, the OPM, and the district. And it was really instrumental in getting the message across. So people at home could push play and stay updated, you know, every moment. So this happened over the course of a year prior to the community vote. Next slide. And then this is just a little bit of a track record. All our public schools, ever since the MSBA was instituted, have passed overwhelmingly. So we are committed to you. We will do everything we can to give you the support that you need. And I just want to emphasize how important this is. And you have to start early on in that PDP phase to get the message to the community. and you carry it through all the way to the public vote. And so we have a very successful track record of getting schools passed. Next slide. And then just reaching out, we have those community forums, which are kind of broader based, which align with the different phases. So we have the PDP phase where we talk about existing condition findings and really stressing the need for the project, as well as expressing what the MSBA process is. Then we go into the preferred schematic report. The most important part here is we have slated 2 community forums. It's showing them the design options, not just one option, but keeping them informed. So here they'll see those 15 design options the whole time. And then after that, they'll understand why one option was selected for the schematic design phase. And we keep it going for, forums 5, 6, and 7. And that leads to the local funding at the end of that number 7. And what's really important is not just reaching out to the community, but focusing on smaller groups. And then here are just a handful of different groups that we've met that's successful. And I'd like to open up to this group after if they have any groups to add, but Senior Center, Council on Aging, Homeowners Association, Realtor groups, PTO, sports leagues, open houses are really exciting to get in front of to give updates. And so here are just some groups that we've met along the way that we want to keep the pulse because they're going to advocate for this project. And with that, that's our presentation. And I will open it up if everybody has any great ideas. And I think the community outreach is the number one focus that we need to talk about.
Thank you very much. Does the committee have any questions or comments for Flansburgh? Mike?
Yeah, thank you, Erica. Yeah, no, great presentation. Thank you. Looks like a great plan moving forward, and hopefully we have success at the end. One question is, would we be able to get a copy of the presentation just for reference after the meeting? And then maybe not to get too far ahead, but just kind of curious for our site, your sort of initial thoughts about if there was a school consolidation, would that lead itself to, could you do sort of that addition renovation and a school consolidation, or would you be looking more at a new construction, or kind of too early to kind of maybe tell that?
All the options that we were showing took the largest option into consideration. So we already looked at the worst case scenario, which is the largest scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll be able to dovetail that in. And again, these are just concepts that we kind of led into the interview, but we're pretty confident we could accommodate an ad reno or new construction option and still get your parking, your play areas, everything you need within that.
Great, thank you.
Other questions or comments or feedback for Flansburgh? When the time is right, this group can brainstorm some other comms and outreach forums. There are several, we noticed in your pictures you had a banner of Apple Fest, but we do have some town-wide events that we could brainstorm and put together a communications plan for. We can be thinking about those things.
That would be great. It's never too early. That's what I say.
Any other feedback or questions? Before we move forward in our meeting and before I dismiss Flansburgh, because we just have a few agenda items left, but procedurally, I would ask this group for a formal vote on the recommendation to approve the negotiated contract with Flansburgh. And again, this goes back to our earlier conversation that we're recommending to approve signing the contract pending the school committee's vote tomorrow to appropriate that $30,000. And that way, once that vote takes place and the funding is fully in place, our town is authorized to sign both contracts. So I would look for a motion to recommend approval of the negotiated designer contract pending the school committee's approval of that $30,000.
So moved, Madam Chair.
A motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? A motion has been made and seconded to recommend approval of the negotiated contract with Flansburgh. Now I would vote by roll call, starting with Lauren Bailey,
Yes.
Michael Tejan,
Aye.
Sean Durkin,
Aye. Can you hear me now?
yes, I can,
Thanks. Sorry about that.
Robert Tomasetti,
Yes.
Tristan Bezant,
Yes.
and Erica Hall says yes, the motion carries. We have a few agenda items left. Erica has a reputation for efficiency, but I also recognize that our designer partners have been on the meeting for a long time. So if anybody has to go coming up on 8 o'clock, we understand that. Our next agenda item has to do with reviewing and approving the invoices that have been submitted to date. Those were provided to you in your pre-meeting packet and were also sent to our invoice review team, Rob and Jason and Mike. Is there any discussion, and is there a motion for approval?
Having been one person to review them, I would move to approve as submitted.
Yeah, I would second that motion. And then just for a discussion point, I know Rob, you had some I thought some good feedback through email. I just want to make sure that you were all you made the motion, so I assume you're all set, but I didn't know if you wanted to touch on that at all or just thank appreciate PMA for following up with us on that. But
Absolutely. That's as resubmitted, no objection as resubmitted. And again, appreciate the PMA team for responding to the comments, walking through the narrative, packaging everything together, and obviously the negotiations over the Thanksgiving holiday to get us to where we are now.
Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the invoices as submitted. Is there any further discussion? In hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote, beginning with Lauren Bailey,
Yes.
Michael Tejan,
aye.
Sean Durkin,
Aye.
Robert Tomasetti,
Yes.
Tristan Bezant.
Yes.
Erica says yes. The motion carries. Agenda item 7, there's no update on our communications subcommittee. We haven't met yet. I think we were saving ourselves for Flansburgh. So we would like you to join us in our opening communications subcommittee meeting, and we'd welcome your direction. So I will work offline to form that committee at a time that works so that we can maximize your input and sort of start moving forward with some of the things that you referenced in your presentation.
We welcome that. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I would welcome any new business from members of the committee. Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Just one question I have for Karina for PMA, just in regards going back to the kind of reductions in some of the budgeting items, specifically with the environmental. Obviously, we're dealing with an existing school, not like an old gas station for another project that we have. But I was just kind of wondering if you could just briefly walk me through with that reduction, significant reduction. I think it was like 75,000 down to 5,100. I assume there's no concerns that any, in the feasibility stage, what does that mean? Are there certain things that you would have done that you're not going to do, or just kind of wondering what that reduction specifically to environmental in this stage of the project, what that means?
So, and Kent, I'll get started and then I'll push it over to you so you can speak to the rest. So the 75,000, out of that 75,000, 69,850 was contracted under Flansburgh, and they're the ones who have the contractors doing research for environmental and site services. So they came in under, because we had the budget of 75,000 and then the difference was the 5150. So we're using that difference towards the PMA contract. But while we were talking negotiations, Kent and I, he is very comfortable with that 69,850, but I won't for him. I will let him speak for himself.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, so we reached out to all our consultants, from wetland scientists to our civil engineers to our hazmat engineers who do the environmental site assessment phase number 1. And so they captured all those costs within the value that we presented the PMA. And so that's all the different groups that are involved for site environmental, as well as structural borings and soil test pits for septic and stormwater. So we were able to bring that cost down, and that will suffice the feasibility study, and you will not see another value above that asking for any more money.
Okay, great. So it sounds like we're not really sacrificing anything. What needs to get
Nope.
done will get done. Perfect. Okay.
Yep, we vetted it out with your site, and that's what happened. So
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's the only additional questions and comments I had, Madam Chair. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other new business, items of new business from committee members? And hearing none, I would now welcome an opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in a public comment period? All right, and hearing none, I thank you all for being here. Thanks to everyone who worked over the Thanksgiving week. And we are excited to move forward on the project. We'll send an update to you following this meeting. And as a reminder, in the new year, we'll have our monthly meetings toward the end of the month. Erica has to go back and check the minutes, but third or fourth week of the month. So I'll send out a 2026 meeting schedule in advance of the new year. Thank you, everyone, for attending. At this point, I would welcome a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn this meeting. Lauren,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Tristan,
Yes.
and Erica says yes. Motion carries. We'll adjourn at 8:02. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your week.
Thank you.
thank you
Good night,
very
everybody.
much.
Thank you.